some cause over the last 24 hours for President Cyril Ramaphosa to possibly formally suspend the Judge President of the Western Cape, Judge John Hlophe. Over the weekend, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal said Hlophe was guilty of gross misconduct for trying to influence two Constitutional Court judges in cases relating to now former President Jacob Zuma. The case goes back over 12 years. Hlophe also faces claims that he assaulted another judge in the Western Cape Division. Professor Tumi Musonyane is an associate professor in the Faculty of Law at the University of North West. Professor, good afternoon to you and thanks for your time. Look, there's a lot of law to look at here. We've only been in this space sort of once. We have this finding by the Judicial Conduct Commission. It's still got to go to the Judicial Service Commission. Does the President currently have the legal power to suspend Judge Hlophe at this moment?
Good evening, afternoon, Steve. And yes, in actual fact, what the process needs to follow now is that the Judicial Service Commission now needs to write to the President in as far as endorsing the findings of the tribunal to suspend him. It is not to say the President directly can suspend. It is on the advice and the recommendations of the Judicial Service Commission that he can then put into effect that suspension.
So at the moment then, just so that I understand, there can't be any letter from the President to the judge saying, I'm now suspending you. He can't do that right now.
At the moment, no, until such time that the Judicial Service Commission takes its steps in as far as the process to write to the President to recommend as such.
Okay, so then the Judicial Service Commission can, and then this has happened before, the Judicial Service Commission can actually sort of overrule the Judicial Conduct Tribunal, right? They can come to a different decision.
It will be under extenuating circumstances for it to do that, but in principle, under the circumstances, it will be difficult for them to move away from the tribunal that has been established by statute, for them to overrule it. It will be very difficult for them to honestly come up with such a different finding being put in front of them.
I mean, it could happen, I suppose. The judicial... You get very confused with conduct tribunals and service commissions, or I do anyway. Probably a good thing I'm not a lawyer. But we have the Judicial Service Commission now. It includes some judges, it includes some lawyers, it also includes some politicians. Do the politicians get to be a part of the decision about whether or not to make a recommendation to the President? Or to Parliament, even?
Yes, the Judicial Service Commission is correct, comprised of a variety of members in it. It is not necessarily to say that it's politicians. It's in fact the composition of it that has been legislated that will make that decision. It won't be attributed to the politicians inside the Judicial Service Commission per se, but as an institution that has been established, it will be correct to essentially say it is the decision of the Judicial Service Commission either to recommend or to disagree with the Conduct Tribunal.
It gets so complicated, it literally makes me scratch my head. Professor, every single part of this is also reviewable, right? So the decision that was announced over the weekend, if he wanted to, Judge John Hlophe could go to court on that. If the Judicial Service Commission then agreed with the decision from the weekend, he could go to court on that. If the President decided at that point to suspend him, he could go to court on that, right?
In fact, looking at the 12 years of this legal struggle that has been happening between the two, I doubt if he will just Hlophe will sit back and let the President to suspend him. I'm of the view that he's likely to the decision on a review to the High Court. However, that review on its own does not necessarily suspend the President's power upon recommendations to suspend him. In actual fact, a decision has been taken, and it is only when that decision has been reversed that Judge Hlophe could still be still on the bench at the moment. But as it stands, the President, he can still challenge it. But even the suspension itself, in order for it not to take effect, he still have to take a decision to go to court to challenge the suspension or to challenge the decision. In fact, there are two possible legal, ramifications for Hlophe at the moment that he could take an avenue for.
Professor Musonyane, in the middle of all of this, we forget sometimes it's deliberately difficult, made very difficult to actually remove a judge. So I mean, the process without any court challenges whatsoever would now go to the Judicial Service Commission. It would make a recommendation. 2/3 of the MPs of Parliament in the National Assembly would have to agree. I think the President signs the final letter. I think it's the President. So we're still looking, without a court case, at probably another year before any decision, and that's with all of the decisions being in the same direction. If any of those decisions is in the other direction, it could be longer or not at all.
I couldn't hear the last part of it, Steve.
I was saying that even if all of the decisions, so if the Judicial Service Commission agrees with the Conduct Tribunal, if Parliament agrees with the Judicial Service Commission, it could still be another year before we have any resolution on this, and that's if everyone agrees on what to do.
Indeed, is correct. I think that's just how the legal process sometimes takes this course in order to reach the final outcome. It is possible that, remember, in the case of Mota, the judge even went on retirement while the case was still ongoing. So in this instance as well, it's just going to take us many years before that, in fact, the first impeachment process will even be invoked.
In the middle of all of this, we have to ask, does this, and it really is, I suppose, is a dispute, gone on for a long time, is it damaging the judiciary and the way the judiciary is perceived? I mean, we saw Judge John Hlophe, as is his right, hearing the case involving the former Minister of State Security, Bongani Bongo, and then in a 174 application discharging him of claims. The NPA is now appealing that decision. That led some people to be very critical of Judge John Hlophe. As the judge of a division, he probably should hear a high-profile case, and yet there are some people who use his past and these cases against him. Has all of this damaged the judiciary in some sort of fundamental way?
Stephen, it cannot, in essence, be seen to be damaging. In fact, that's what the democracy is at stake, the independence of the judiciary. That it is not to say everything that's done by the judiciary. It is not to say that the decision cannot be challenged. If there is a different view to that, the legal process, allows them, in terms of the constitutions, to challenge any decisions courts takes, that Judicial Service Commissions takes. In essence, there is nothing sinister about all of that being challenged at the moment. That's how the process evolved. That's how the Constitution enabled the environment for it to be like that.
Professor Tumi Musanyane, thanks very much indeed. Associate Professor of Law at the University of Northwest. I'm still scratching my head, frankly, and will be for some time. Professor, I really appreciate the time.